Hey yo, this is Bob from Bob's Tabletop Sports, greeting all of you tabletop gamers. And today we come to you with the third video in our series about the game Footy. As promised, this video today is going to be about the doubles chart. So as you can see here, I got the doubles chart right here in front of me here. And so we're going to talk about that. But before we begin, I just want to remind everybody, if you don't have the rules to this game yet and you want to get a copy, it's free of charge. You can distribute to anybody you want, whatever, just as long as you don't sell it yourself to someone else. This is a free game. So there'll be a link down in the doobly-doo. You can click on that, get the beta 0.2 version of the game. It'll be in a zip file. It'll give you everything you need, including this doubles chart that we're looking at right now, a field. It will give you players. It will give you a score sheet and the rules. Okay, and it's all updated to the latest version right now. And right now it's pretty much the beta of this is pretty much done at this point, and I'm looking to move this to final release very shortly. So let's talk about the doubles chart. So how do we find whatever the result is for the doubles that you rolled? So the first thing is let's say this is only going to be done on your action roll, right? So you have your roll to determine which players are going to be your key players. That's the first roll. But the second roll we're going to do is going to be the action roll, right? To see whether or not the offensive player makes their check and the defensive player makes their check, and trying to determine everything. But if the roll doubles on that roll, we go to this doubles chart. And it's going to be based on whatever you rolled for that roll. So don't touch this roll. Once you've made it, this is where you go. So you can see here, we have all of the different doubles values here. So 1 through 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We rolled 2 6s, so it's going to be the 6. And then we go by based on what the red die value is. So you can see here a 10, and that's going to say defender hard checked. Okay. Right now, you don't need to really know what that is until we get to that part of the video. But just know that would be the result for that play. Okay. There are a bunch of different things on here. There are descriptions for every single one of them on this chart. But I want to go into a little bit more detail. So we're going to put this doubles chart away. Just assume that all of these things are going to be on there. But let's go into some details of the different things that can happen. So I have this game board here from our video that we did before, the second video, where we talked about all the different checks and everything and all that. So we're going to kind of pick up where we left off in this one. We'll use our infamous Vestergaard and Richter here to be our example players, and we'll go through some of these different results. So let's talk about the easy ones first. So there are several spaces on there marked resolve normally. And all that means is when we resolve normally, it just means we're going to resolve the play as is. So as if these dice weren't doubles and we didn't go to the double chart, and we're just going to resolve it. So in this example here, Vestergaard does not make his offensive check because it's a 6 and he's a 4. And 6s always fail. And same thing is going to happen with the defense. So both players failed. And in that case, then you're going to look to see who gets control based on that 12-sided dice. And as you can see here, it is a 10. And the range here is 6 to 12. And so the control will remain on that side. Okay, lulls. Lulls basically are nothing happens for that minute. And the player or the team that has control of the ball will retain control of the ball. And that's that. So a lull basically looks like this. We just mark off another minute off the thing, and we keep off the score sheet, and we keep going. Momentum shift. This is going to be just like a lull. Nothing really happens except the two teams switch who has the ball. So the control goes to the other team. And that is momentum shift. Those are the easy ones. So let's get a little bit more difficult here. Let's talk about injuries. And if you remember back from our previous video when we talked about injury checks, right? So if we have an offensive player and it's an offensive injury check, we're going to be looking at their player's offense rating to make that check. So in this case, it would be a 4 or less. And in this case, the player would not be injured, okay? Same thing for defense. If it's a defensive injury and we call for a defensive type of check, we're going to look at the defense rating for that player and we will roll a die and to see if they're injured. In this case, this player is injured because they rolled above a 3. So that is how we do our injury checks. Now, for goaltenders, remember that we also have those as a 3. So they're automatically a 3. Every single goaltender is a 3. So for morale here, we'll say we're rolling against them. They successfully made their check. There are several results on the doubles chart that pertain to goaltenders, and specifically a lot with injuries and different types of scuffles and things like that. It is always assumed that the goaltender that they're referring to is the one goaltender that is on defense. So just make that assumption, okay? All right, so let's talk about minor injuries first. There's 2 different results on the chart for that. There is attacker or defender goes down, and I'll actually show these to you on here so you can see these. So we have here the attacker goes down, and we have the defender goes down here as well. I just can't find it. There we go. There's the defender goes down as well. So those results are basically just going to mean that the player in question gets to make an injury check. And if they make the check, they're not injured. However, if they do, they're going to get a minor injury. In both cases, however, the team that sustained the injury or could have sustained the injury will get possession of the ball. It's assumed that maybe it was a minor scrape or something like that, and they brushed it off, and then they get possession of the ball. Okay, that's kind of what's going on there. All right. There are 2 other results on here, and these are going to be for the freak injury results. So attacker freak injury and defender freak injury. So you can see attacker freak injury here, and you can see defender freak injury over here. Okay, on those results, there is no check. You're just injured. You get a minor injury for that player, and that's that. And that's how you handle it. And the team with the injury, again, will get possession of the ball for the next minute. Okay. Now, there are 2 other injury results on here, but they are for major injuries. And so there is one here for attacker goes down major, and one here for defender goes down major as well. I can't find that one. There might not be one on there for that one. In this case, it's a major injury chance. Okay, so what's going to happen is that the player is going to roll to see whether or not their player gets a major injury. So for Vestergaard's example here, a 1 or a 2, they do not get a major injury. They get a minor injury instead. Otherwise, they get a major injury. In this case, Vestergaard gets a major injury. They're out of the game completely. So just a reminder for the rules on injuries. Major injuries, out of the game completely. Minor injuries, they're out of the game temporarily. And in both cases, you can make substitutions. So if Vestergaard was injured, came out, we could put Cheng in there or Lee in there as a replacement. And for the minor injury for Vestergaard, if he was out, he would be able to come back in at the next hard stop of the game. Hard stops, remember, are anytime a goal is scored, anytime there's an injury, anytime that there is a yellow card or red card issued, or anytime, or at halftime. So those are the different times that you could do that. So they would have to be out of the game and sit out until that point. Okay, so we covered injuries. Now we'll talk about yellow cards. And yellow cards are very similar in that the player will come out of the game. They will get a yellow card, and we'll mark it on our score sheet. I like to put an additional little thing on there to just kind of remind me, hey, this player has a yellow card, but they'll come out of the game temporarily, and then we can put our replacement player in there for that until, again, a hard stop comes in the game, and then they can come back in the game. But it's always nice to have that reminder on here, because if they get a second yellow card, then they are removed from the game for the rest of the game, and it's treated like a red card, with the opposing team then getting a penalty shot. We'll talk about red cards in a little bit, but that's how we would handle a double yellow card. So there are two different results for yellow cards specifically, just for a straight up yellow card. There is an attacker defender unsportsmanlike results. So you can see on here, let's see, unsportsmanlike. Here's an attacker, there's a defender, unsportsmanlike results. These results pertain to a player getting a check. So they get to check here whether or not, in this case, that player did get a yellow card, okay? Vestergaard would on that one, okay? They actually get to make a check. Then there is also the attacker or defender is carded results. So in this case, there are a couple of those on here. Of course, I can't find them right now. Let's see. Attacker carded, defender carded. Yep, there they are. Okay, in those cases, they straight up get a yellow card. And as the description text says in there, it says it's likely maybe some controversial penalty called on a player or foul or whatever, and all of a sudden they get a yellow card out of the blue. And so that's kind of what's going on there, okay? All right. So those are the direct ways to get a yellow card without injuring somebody. Then we have the combo, where there's an injury and a penalty possible on that play. So there's the attacker or defender hard checked results, which are defender hard checked and defender hard checked or attacker hard checked as well. These results have to do with a player possibly getting injured. So in this example, let's say it's a defender hard checked result. We would roll for an injury for this player first. And so 1 to 3, they're injured, are not injured. So this player is not injured. Now, if this player was injured, this player here would automatically get a yellow card. Okay? However, because this player was not injured, but partially injured, then there was a scuffle going on, they would still have to make a sportsmanship check to avoid a yellow card. And in this case, they actually do. So there's no real result to the play, but because, again, there was an injury involved in the play, or a possible injury, the next minute would start with the team that had a possible injury taking over. Okay? So that's how those go. There are two results on here that can be very game-changing, and we'll get our players back here again. These are just this one here, attacker flattened and defender flattened. In those cases, they'll work the same way that the other one did. However, we're rolling for a major injury here. Okay, so in this case, this player is rolling to avoid a major injury. In this case, this player is majorly injured and will be out for the rest of the game. There's no getting that player back, unfortunately. Again, they could put in someone to take over. And if that player is majorly injured, this player automatically gets a red card, and they are out of the game as well for the rest of the game. And this team will then get a penalty kick, which we talked about penalty kicks in the last video. Okay. However, let's say that this defender made their roll. Let's see if we get one. Yep, they did make their roll here now. So this time, they made their roll. They avoided the major injury, so they're only going to be out with a minor injury. So they're still going to come out of the game until the next hard stop. You're going to replace them with somebody else. But this player is not off the hook yet, because they did something pretty egregious to almost take that person out of the game. So they're still going to have to roll to see if they get a red card, even though that player didn't get a major injury. And so we're going to roll against their sportsmanship. And if they make their check, they only get a yellow card. Otherwise, they get a red card. So in this example, they still get a red card, and they don't get lucky and only get the yellow card instead. Okay, like I said, those plays can be very game changing, and can shake things up in a game very quickly. All right, so we kind of talked about injuries and how all those go, and we talked about the various different types of yellow cards and red cards and punishment. We talked about combinations of both. There are another two different types of combinations. There's minor scuffles and major scuffles. And when we talk about scuffles, it's really just what it is. It's not a fight. It's not like this isn't hockey. Okay, so it's basically two players getting chippy with one another, and it's possible that one or both or none could get a yellow card. So in this case, we're going to roll for both players. So in this case, we roll 2 for this for the minor scuffles. So we roll a 2 and a 3, try to see what we get here. And they actually both made it. So in this case, that's good. So they both made their minor scuffle roll. Neither of them will get a yellow card, and we just rely on the red die to determine possession for the next minute. The same thing would be true if they had both gotten a yellow card. We would still roll the red die to determine who got the ball for the next minute. If one team got a yellow card and the other one didn't, of course, the team that didn't get the yellow card would have possession for the next minute. But that's it for that. Okay. Now, the real interesting one is major scuffles, because there's an injury component and then there is a yellow card component to it as well. So we first roll for each player for injury. So 4 and a 3 here. Oops, put the one on top there. So this player made theirs, this player made theirs. So they both made it. Now, if they had failed, if one of them failed, it would be an automatic yellow card for that player, and then it would be all over. Okay? At that point, it would be all done. Okay? However, since they both failed to injure each other, we're still going to roll for yellow cards for both of them. And at this point, it looks like Richter's not going to get a yellow card, but Vestergaard here is going to get one. And so in this case, the possession would go to this team here in the next minute after Vestergaard comes out of the game and someone comes in to replace him. Okay. So enough about injuries and stuff like that. We also have 2 other types of plays in here, and we kind of alluded to these in the last video. We talked about breakthroughs and breakaway plays. There is attacker breakthrough plays, and those are basically whoever's the attacker gets an automatic shot on goal. Doesn't matter where they are, what their offensive skill is or whatever. They just get an automatic shot on goal, and that shot is going to be at, remember what we called -10, meaning we take the first number of their goaltender rating and subtract 1. They are now rated as a 26 for this one shot. So in this example here, we rolled a 24. They actually made the save despite the subtraction, and they, we would then go and figure out where the ball goes for the next minute. Okay. Breakaways are a little bit different. So it's a defender breakaway. So in this case, Richter here would automatically get a breakaway attempt. He doesn't have to go through the whole steal procedure, which we talked about before. But in this case, what's going to happen is that Richter would get that automatic breakaway attempt. And remember, on the breakaway attempt for defender breakaways, we add 2 to the offensive rating. And remember, 6 always fails. We make a roll for that player, and we rolled a 2. So they have a successful breakaway attempt, and then again, Vega would have to save at a -10, and that is a goal. Okay. So those are our 2 types of breakaways. And for the defender breakaway, despite what happens on that, they will retain possession for the next minute unless they score a goal. And in that case, we do switch. So because they scored a goal, it's going to stay over here. Okay. So that is all of the different types of things on the doubles chart. There's quite a bit here. So let's kind of review. We have the resolve normally, lull, and momentum shift, which basically means nothing happened during that time for the lull and the momentum shift. Resolve normally is we just resolve the doubles result as is. But the lull and the momentum shift, nothing really happens. And the momentum shift, we just change who has the ball. We talked about minor injuries, attacker goes down, and freak injury. Remember, for the attacker goes down, they roll for the injury. And for the freak injury, it's an automatic injury. They don't get a chance to avoid it. Attacker or defender goes down major. Remember, that is to avoid a major injury. If they make their roll successfully, they get a minor injury instead. Otherwise, they get a major injury and they're out of the game. We talked about yellow cards. The attacker, defender, unsportsmanlike result. Again, that result being one where they get to roll to avoid getting yellow card. And then the attacker, defender carded, which is an automatic yellow card. They can't do anything to avoid it. We talked about the combination injury penalty checks, like the attacker, defender hard checked, which in that case was a opportunity where we would roll for the defender first to see if they were injured. If they were injured, then the attacker would automatically get a yellow card. Otherwise, if they were not injured, then they still have to roll their sportsmanship to avoid a yellow card. And then also the flattened results, which in the end in possible major injuries and possible red cards. We talked about scuffles, the minor scuffle, where the two players just roll their sportsmanship to try to avoid a yellow card. And we talked about major scuffles, where we have to roll for injury first. If a player is injured, the other player gets a yellow card. By the way, if both players are injured, both players get a yellow card on top of the injury too. So that's always fun. Which means the injury really doesn't do anything. It's just they're going to be out anyways because of the yellow card, and so they sit out until the next break. And then we talked about the attacker breakthrough and defender breakaway plays as well. So that's it for this video. It's just nice and short, hopefully today. Our next show, we're going to talk about the score sheet. We'll show you an example of the score sheet. It's how to score the game as you go through. And we'll talk about the possible early ending of the game at different phases of the game. So thank you all for watching today's video. And if you like this video, leave a like. If you like the content on the station and you are not subscribed to the station or to this channel yet, go ahead and subscribe and turn on notifications, and you can be notified the next time a video comes up. And we will see you at the next video about score sheets.